Number one, the policies are more consistent. There's an economic philosophy. There's a greater reliance on the private sector. There's reform in the air. And we are talking about carrying out reforms. You heard the Minister for Agriculture talking about how they have reformed the whole process of government trying to subsidize fertilizers. Basically they've moved away from the government trying to subsidize something and distribute it itself, open to abuse. Now they're using private sector channels. You witness the adjustment of fuel prices to reduce the size of the subsidy. You've also probably heard about the plans for the power sector roadmap, which essentially is to privatize the whole power sector. Now, the power sector, I think, is the best example of how this country, this government differs from the past. This is the only government that has come out, launched a power sector roadmap that essentially intends to transfer the entire power sector from the government to the private sector. So basically, therefore, their solution to the problem is to privatize the whole sector. And people keep on asking me, but why should that make a difference? Let me tell you why it makes a difference. It's about an alignment of goals.
Poverty and unemployment, which is at 23%, remain a major issue here in Nigeria. Some say the government should be paying more attention to this than reforms in its power and oil sectors. What is your opinion of this?
The first thing I will mention is that, let me remind you and everybody else again. Nigeria's structure, our federal structure, there are 3 tiers of government. Whenever you listen to the Western press, they talk about the government. You would think there was only one federal government. I was speaking to them and I pointed out that over half the revenues actually accrue to the states and local governments. Yet every Western outlet in the media talks about the government. And in truth, some of the areas where there's been the biggest failure, you heard about education, where somebody said that the pass rate is 17%. Who runs those schools? It is the states and the LGAs. People blame the federal government for failure in areas where the states and the local government have the revenue and are in charge of something. And interestingly, some of those states and local LGAs themselves, realizing that there isn't enough enlightenment, they themselves point fingers at Abuja for things that are squarely within their own back garden, their own domestic local failure. We should put pressure on the rest to wake up and discharge their own functions properly. Now, unemployment, poor education, poor infrastructure, they're all linked. If you improve infrastructure, you improve job creation. If you improve education, you also increase the probability that people can find useful employment because there are more tasks that they'll be qualified to handle.